Philippe, welcome to Too
We.
Much Information. We do meet, man.
Hey, finally.
Finally, man. How you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. I'm good.
Glad.
I mean, as good as we can be with a global pandemic.
Do you know what I mean? It's a crazy situation. First time
Crazy.
ever. That definitely in my lifetime.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah, man, it's
Thought it was
crazy.
only gonna be in the movies, man. I
Yeah,
literally thought it was only gonna be in the movies.
and you are the movie man, so I know. I bet you've seen.
Right.
I bet you've seen many a movie.
Too
That,
many, and it's like, nah, that's never gonna happen. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, it's a crazy time, man. It's a crazy time. But yeah, I'm glad to see you're good. Thank you so much for coming for joining me on this, man. Being a part of this podcast today, man. I really appreciate it. Um, I remember just from the first time that I saw your page, your podcast, it was something that jumped out at me, and I was just like, right, this is unusual, interesting, and that was before I even listened to the podcast. So just from your Instagram page, I was just like, this person has definitely got a perspective on life, on the world, and it's something that I'll definitely want to kind of bounce ideas off, man. So thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
absolutely, absolutely. Trust me, I'm just as ecstatic. I found this community lively. Let's say.
Yes, yeah, perfect word, man.
Yeah.
All right. So how I usually do start all my podcasts is really just to kind of get into the to your family upbringing.
Yeah.
How were you created to be the person that you are? So parents, were you raised with both? One, none. How what was your upbringing like, man?
Uh, my upbringing it's not too different from well, at least from where I'm from. Originally from Haiti.
Okay.
I was born in. I always tell the story. My mom came here for 2 weeks in New York, Nassau County, popped me out. 2 weeks later, went back to Haiti, and I lived all my life in Haiti. Till I was 19, and they shipped me back out here
Okay.
to get a college education and everything. Upbringing was very traditional. Very, very traditional. Like, we were told there was only three jobs we could do.
Okay. And what were those
That's
three
it.
jobs?
Lawyer, doctor, or engineer. I was like,
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, three jobs. That was it. That was it. There was no. I was like, what? That doesn't make sense to me at all. The world never makes sense to me at all from get go, man.
Okay.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, it's just a very traditional country. There's not much outside influence up until lately.
Right.
But it was kind of pretty close-minded, kind of go to school, do your thing. I just never adapted to school. I don't know how much. I passed a couple beatings, if not a lot of beatings from grandma. Uh,
Yes, yes. The
but grandma,
famous
because grandma
grandma.
raised me. My both my parents are doctors. So they
Okay.
were, and they started when I was born. They started their residency. So my
Right.
my my childhood was with my grandma. Um,
Okay.
as they were in and out. And then we moved out, and that's when I started, actually being raised by my parents.
Right.
And then yeah, and then 18 after graduated from high school, shipped to here, the United States, and said, "Hey, make something of yourself."
And how was that for you?
Hey,
Actually, before we go there, so you was
yeah,
raised in Haiti, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, being raised with your grandmother, that's
Yeah.
a older person, someone from a different generation to even your parents, let alone to you.
Yeah.
So there must have been some interesting lessons and I want to say morals, but that's not really the word I'm looking for. But just some interesting parts of your personality that were only exist because of the fact that your grandmother raised you. Are there any? Is there any that you can think of things that separate you? Let's say, for example, from somebody who was raised by someone who was a bit closer to them in age, closer to them in generation, if that makes sense.
Oh, it's just a couple of speech here and there from my grandma, and it was always something with we call it mammy. It was
Okay,
always something with mammy.
right,
She was an exceptional woman. Very determined. Made something out of nothing. had to raise like 4 or 5 other siblings by herself by the age of 14. So
Wow.
she grew up early. Let's just say she grew up
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
We didn't know the definition of love for my grandma, not at all. But we understood every lesson she threw at us from the back of her sandals, though. 'Cause- so there's
Yeah.
that. But my grandma was just very very strict. She had an idea of what she wanted her kids and her grandkids to be,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it for her. Like even I remember even the things like for example like in the house, like because Haiti is a country we speak both Creole and French,
Right.
but Creole is the indigenous
Yes.
language. It's the dialect that became a language
Mm-hmm.
versus French, which was the colonial language inputted, right? We're not allowed to speak Creole in the house. she, did,
No way.
she didn't want that shit. No, she only wanted like, French speaking. Like she had a picture. So probably one of the favorite speeches I had from my grandma was when I was leaving for college.
Mhm.
She told me, "Look, it's only 4 years. It's not about girls. It's not about. It's about 4 years. You go, you study, you make something of yourself, and then you can worry about girls." Who says that to a college person, right? It's like that's like number one reason you go to college, especially in the United States, is for
Yeah.
this. Uh, but uh, but no, it was that she was like, and she was so strict. Oh my gosh, she was so strict and I'll say traditional because
Yeah.
ignorant at this point doesn't mean anything because she'll be like, you don't date any Asians, you don't date any,
Oh
you don't
wow.
date any.
And what was
She had like
what
a
was what was it? What
whole
yeah?
list of
What was the
things
reason
that
for
could
that? What was the reason that she gave for that?
mindset, traditional mindset. Uh,
Just did she just mean anyone that was different to you, or was there
basic,
specific people?
basically anyone that
Okay.
was different to me or basically Haitian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I hear
yeah.
you.
It was just
How did
like
how did that work out for you?
that. 3 months in, first girl I did it was American white.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And like, no, listen at all. That didn't work out at all.
No, of course.
I was somewhat the rebel of the family. But yeah,
Hmm.
it was an interesting dynamic. My grandma. I was the oldest in the family too. So me
Okay,
with
firstborn, yeah.
yeah, firstborn. So I got the whooping.
Yeah, and that's a lot of responsibility as well. To be
Yeah,
fair,
yeah, yeah. Had
you
to
have to
watch over.
set that. You have to set that example.
Yeah, yeah. And they, oh, trust me, they made me do good. But no, but tell me a little bit about yourself. Who's Chuck Wilson?
All right.
Why the UK?
Why am I in the UK? Yeah, I was born here. Um, I was born here. I am 38 years old. Um, I was born to my mother, who, as is obvious, I suppose, not pretty
Yeah,
hard to be born to
I'm
anyone
like, I
else.
mean,
But
I mean,
yes,
this
I was born
story
to my
starts
mother.
interesting.
Um, yeah, so I was born to my mother in London, North London. That's where I'm from. My mother was born in Jamaica. She came here when she was maybe, I think, under 5 years old, maybe around that sort of age, with her mother. Her mother was a nurse. My mum was a social worker. Um, my father left when I believe when I was maybe like 2, definitely under the age of 5, and so I was raised solely by my mum. Um, when I was born, my mum was a Rastafarian. Um, so I
So
was
who wearing Bob
raised.
Marley's shirt?
So I was brought up in a very kind of Afrocentric way. Kind of, I identified with you when you spoke about never feeling less than someone who didn't look like you,
Yep,
always feeling empowered and feeling
yep,
like
yep.
the majority. I identified with that. Um, so then, so that was I was raised in a Rastafarian community. And then for a few years, my mum became a Muslim for a little while. She left Rastafari and then became a Muslim, and which was maybe for about 4 or 5 years. Her and one of her good friends. So my aunt is still a Muslim at the moment now, but they became Muslim at the same time. So I learned a little bit about that culture, and then my mum kind of went back to I think what she was maybe raised in, which was Christianity and that kind of, but always still having Afrocentricity and
Okay. So Black
reverence
Jesus and all.
for all of that good stuff, right? So, uh, so there was a lot of I got a very broad view of the main influences in my immediate world, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because I was around a lot of Caribbean people, so Rastafarian is a big element of that. I'm in a I don't know what you call it, a Christian country, for example. So I had a broad understanding of that, and there's a lot of Muslims here as well. So I had a broad understanding of that as well. So I've always been able to kind of speak to people with a kind of base level of understanding of their perspective, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Right. So yeah, so that's my upbringing. Um, Fast forward, school. I was alright academically, and then obviously I kind of, well, not obviously, but I ended up going veering off. Chosen. My mum was very focused on education. She was maybe not in the same situation as your grandmother, of being able to kind of be. She was able to be strict with me until I got to secondary school, and then when
Yeah.
I got to secondary school, I kind of my rebellious nature came out, and I was willing to get the beatings until I got big enough to where it wasn't really. She couldn't really. It was.
She could re-
She'd
it
have to
didn't do
use too
anything
many.
anymore. It just didn't
Yes,
do
no,
anything.
no, don't get me wrong, man.
She's like,
My
I'm,
mum was a
I'm done.
professional
I'm done. I give up.
weapons. Nah, my mum was on weapons until she kicked me out of the house, man. I got. You ever been beat with a phone book?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
got thrown. I had
so
thrown
yeah,
the phone book. Not beat with it. Thrown the phone book.
yeah. My mum two hands and beat me down on the sofa, you know. So yeah,
It's like you're looking at it, it's like two people talking about their meetings and laughing their minds off. It's like, hey, y'all a
yeah. It's
psychopath. Yeah, pretty much.
so you've left studies,
Yeah.
didn't complete for whatever
Yeah.
reason. It just wasn't for you.
Yeah.
That's just not really your kind of thing. So what did you do after that? Where did you go? Where did your life take you after that?
So at trial and repeat. It's not even trial and error, trial and repeat for
Mhm.
school to like 20, 25,
Okay.
2026.
Hmm.
And then I just like had to take a hard look, like be like, all right, what I want to do? Am I following this path that they set for me, or is that gonna be the thing I need to follow? But if I need to follow, I need to hunker down and do it.
Yeah,
Or if I'm really just against it, then I need to find my own kind of path.
makes
And
sense.
apart from like just getting into college, an American college, like very free spirited. It was art school too, so it was
Okay.
it was just very free spirited, very eye opening, very.
Hmm.
I got into all type of like kind of things and subject matters that I was not afforded to in Haiti, but it wasn't there. It was not something that
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
were talking about. I mean, nobody was talking about philosophy in Haiti.
Right.
Nobody was talking about like these type of things in Haiti. And if they were, it was a very secluded niche that
Yes.
you would know until you come back. Hey, I'm seeking this niche. Where is it? Type of
Right.
deal. But 27 was when I was just like, all right. And then just working couple jobs here and there, part time, nothing,
Hmm.
nothing serious. But it was 27 was just like I was in this long relationship, following again the path of the normal man, the normalcy path. And I decided to quit just everything, man. I just pack up everything. I took my car and was like, all right, it's gonna be from Miami
Uh-huh.
to God knows where. I need to find something that gives me some kind of meaning.
Wow.
So uh so I pick up everything and I just drive. And it was like a 3.5 months road trip, really, from Miami to Cali, with a
Wow.
bunch of, and it was no like hotels or anything, like occasional motel just to get like kind of refamiliarized, but it was just me, my tent, my car. And it
Wow.
was just like, yeah, it was just, hey, I need to see, I need to understand something else, because I couldn't accept that this was the only path for all of us. Like, it was, that's not the only way that, we have to do, or we have to live things, or we have to know things, whatever. And then so I took this road trip and I met all sorts of people.
I can
All
imagine.
sorts of people. Uh we're not talking about great thinkers. We're talking about people, like normal people, that a counterculture. Like, I found a whole American counterculture, a whole world counterculture that they even know existed.
Right.
Um, I mean, America, they call them like the travelers. I guess like in Europe, be like kind of gypsies,
Yes,
in a
yes,
way.
yes.
But
Wow.
I met. See, I tell my friends this. My friends was like, it was a cult. I'm like, eh. I mean, but I met it's a group of people, because I had met them in California. It was just two of them, a couple, and they were traveling. It's like, hey, and we started talking, just like random conversations. Like, hey, you look like the type that would fit in a rainbow family. I'm like, rainbow what? Like, yeah, it's called Rainbow Family, Rainbow Gatherings. It happens all over the world. Like, there's like, you just have to go to this website specifically. I think it was called like Squad the Planet,
Okay.
uh, the website. And then there's like multiple groups like that, that what they do is that they find a public national place
Mm-hmm.
and they camp out there. And everybody's kind of welcome. You bring your own stuff, your own food. They build like, kitchens out of nothing. And then
Wow.
they stay there for a month or two, and it's just like a whole type of gathering of just different mindset. And it was just that's why I was debating with my friends, like, it doesn't seem like a cult because it's everywhere. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
one happened in Ocala, Florida at the time, and the one that I got into for like 2 weeks, and then after that kind of became overwhelming, was one in Tucson, Arizona.
Right.
And it was just like this. It's basically a bunch of hippies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Basically a bunch of hippies just living their life the way they decide to,
Mm-hmm.
kind of have like their own idea, their own mindset, which was kind of a little enlightening, because it was like, here are these people here just completely living outside the system,
Mm-hmm.
outside, doing whatever they want,
Mm.
and then their happiness is in that. Now, coming from so many backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
was not my comfort zone. I'm glad I met it. I'm glad I saw it. I loved it.
Yeah.
But
It's not the life you choose.
yeah, definitely not the life I choose. Definitely, it's a choice. It's at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want? Exploration without comfort, or comfort?
It's a deep question. Mm.
Uh,
It's a deep question. Comfort. I don't know. I don't know.
Comfort is comfort is how the system gets us, man. That's what I'm
That's
telling you.
that's what I was doing. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking comfort as a term or as a concept
Yeah,
is the enemy of growth maybe.
it is. It is. It's sad to say, but it is. Like, we grow through struggle.
Hmm.
You know.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Now that's a quite an interesting um, journey there. Coming from Haiti to then moving
That.
to America and seeing these different ways of living that are completely different to your almost restricted and highly directionalized, if that's even a word, or pushed in a direction life up until that point, up until you deciding to what do you think gave you that um, get up and go to get up and go, if that makes sense.
The same thing that made me come back is the same thing that pushed me away.
Interesting.
It was the comfort. It was like, oh, this is what you got to do to keep this comfort. Like, and I was like, yeah, but this comfort is not. That's not an answer It's like, would you ask yourself, what's my life purpose? To get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable.
Mm. Mm.
Why do you work? Why do you do anything? To get comfortable. To
Yeah.
have a nice family, the wife, kids, settle down, to get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. I mean, at the end of the day, that's most of us what we think. I don't want to say it's for everybody, but that was the same thing that pushed me because I felt like that was the same thing that put me in that mindset, the traditional background mindset that was also a challenge. Like coming here, and I was like, well, traditionally this is how it is, and then America is just laughing at you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not how it is. There's so many possibilities. There's so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So it was to me, it was just like it was the comfort. It was the my also my struggles with school, my struggles with with my own purpose, my own that millennial question, why am I here?
Mm-hmm. It's a big, it's an
That
important
millennial
question.
question, why am I here? What am I doing this? It's just that it's too much. Like I always say this. I empathize a lot with people, not just people I care about, but I empathize with things that happen in the world, things that that happen around us, to people in general, to Black community, to
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Like things like this, I need to understand why there's this kind of struggle, kind of obstacles that we put, in a society. So it was all these questions I had. And I was like, I need to figure something out. There's something that they themselves, as in my parents,
Yeah.
everybody, like my family around me, tell me like I need to figure out something else, man. It can't just be all that.
Mm-hmm. Bear with me. I'm just gonna turn this light on. I'm looking a bit dark in
Okay.
here. One sec. Oh dear. All
Yeah.
right. Maybe a little bit better. Oh dear. Right. Yeah. So yeah, that is proper interesting. It's interesting that um you. I feel like that's a pretty brave thing to do. Obviously, some element of it was down to maybe, as you said, struggle with school and kind of just
Yeah.
wanting to find
Yeah.
another path. But I still think that to to make that decision to, like you said, pack in your car and go, rather
Yeah.
than driving your car to McDonald's or something and go get. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? I feel like that's what a lot of people
Yeah.
would do, where they just they feel like they haven't got many options. That's maybe I'm projecting or whatever, but I'm just this is how I've kind of built the picture in my mind that those are the options that you've got. Really, either you kind of fit into the social norms, conform to what is expected of you, which is not traditionally, but just society wise, go get a job and just live hand to mouth in the immediate time now, and or go and just see what the world has to offer. And I feel like that's a very brave, a very enlightened decision, and that's probably why you were blessed with seeing all these different options and alternatives to the way life is.
Yeah.
Do,
I
you- do, you-
mean,
do you get what I mean?
yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Uh, it's like I don't know if it's necessarily the same. If it's not, we should definitely patent it. But uh, but it's like how art is best when it comes from struggle.
Hmm.
It's almost like the best artists that we have had shitty lives. I'm talking about shitty lives, or even if you want to take uh, something more relevant, like the music industry, you can't tell me old Jay-Z or old Kanye is as good as anything recently they've dropped.
Yeah.
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 I'm not saying there's not some good Kanye tracks out there or like, something like that, but like the very good first album Kanye dropped or like stuff like that, there was heartfelt emotions in there. There was
Hmm.
there was struggle in there that you could rise out of something, something out of nothing, versus now when they're multi-million dollar
Yeah.
businesses trying to make music just for money
That's
instead of
exactly what
survival.
it is. Truth.
Yeah.
It's that truth. I feel like what comes out of struggle is truth, even when it is almost, what's the word? Even when it is, I don't know if contrived. I think contrived is the right word. So you know,
Yeah.
like even if you're rich or you're comfortable, like
Yeah.
you were saying, if you're comfortable and you try and make an honest record, because we're talking about music, for
Yeah.
example, then it's still gonna be coloured by the comfort. It's still gonna be coloured by the ego. It's still gonna be coloured by all these external
Exactly.
things. Where when you're coming from struggle and the only motivation you've got is I need to eat,
Yeah.
I need to be somebody. Like it is
Yeah.
just about what is my truth. And I feel like a lot of the best, like you said, the best art, and I feel like that's why the best art comes from truth and comes from struggle,
Yeah.
because there is no
It's either
white
you make it or
noise.
you don't. There's
Yeah,
it's a black and white dilemma. It's not
yeah,
it's not it's like one of the few black and white dilemmas, but
mm,
it's there. It's like either I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it great and it's gonna be great, or I'm not. Or I'm
mhm,
just not gonna make it.
yeah, yes. Interesting. What I did want to touch on, 'cause you did mention it, and just when you mentioned it, it was something that I was thinking of asking. You mentioned like your interest. You're interested in people and I don't know black issues and all these kinds of things. So,
Hmm.
I did you when you came from Haiti? Because I don't know much, but I do know that um, there is maybe some kind of stigma
Yeah.
in America around Haitians and um, did you experience any I don't know pushback or racism, for example, or just any kind of prejudice, maybe is a more broader term if it wasn't direct. I don't know what part of America you was in, but did you experience anything like was that a shock to you or is that
So first, see, now I live in Miami. Miami is like, and I call it a cesspool. People tell me cesspool is not a good word, but that's what I it's Miami is a cesspool. It's like you have all the Caribbean there. You have, European influence. You have South American influence. You really have a bunch of people that are there in Miami. So Miami's a little bit less.
Mhm.
Um, but when I first moved to America,
Yeah.
it was in Savannah, Georgia. It
Oh
was the
wow.
true stuff.
Wow.
Sorry.
So
So the thing with Savannah that I didn't know. So the thing for me growing up in Haiti, and I always tell people this is something I had to realize afterwards.
hmm
It's we come from a majority of black,
right.
so we're not used to being a minority. Um,
hmm
the type of racism there is in Haiti is classism. It's about money.
Right.
So the more money you have, the whiter you look. Even if we look purple.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if you have a lot of money, they literally on the streets, like the little poor kids in the street will call you, hey, hey, white, hey, whitey, like
Wow.
that type. So um, it's something I never experienced till I came to Savannah, and now I'm 33, I can say it, but it's like first night trying out my fake ID.
hmm
Uh, I was like, okay, let's try this fake ID out. So I called these two girls that were like in sophomore, like, hey, I'm gonna try my fake ID, please. You guys are older, like, come out with me. Let's see if it works. So I go
hmm
to this bar. I remember it was called B&D Burger, like
hmm
bar, and they're kind of like underground. I go, and at first I don't realize it. Right, I'm just going down. And I just see a bunch of people because at that point I was colorblind. I just see a bunch of people there, right?
hmm
And then I go, I try the ID, I get my drink, it was a Heineken too. Man, a little taste.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say
come on, I was 20,
the
man. Like,
worst
of
beer in
course, like
existence.
Heineken is like the only beer I know. but uh, but yeah, so I take the beer, it works. I turn around to the ladies, I'm like, hey, I got my beer, shit straight. So they go and then they're ordering their drinks. So I'm kind of like canvassing the area. I'm like turning around looking, and I see these uh these white dudes like in the corner. Military bootcut. Savannah is like a very big base too. Like there's a
Right.
lot of military base there. But so I meet I see these guys in the corner. Kind of all group up by the dart the dart target thing, and they're like. And they said something, and I'm saying it now because that's why I understood they said, but I really didn't hear it at the time. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, we don't accept your kind down here.
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
This is like 2005, 6, yeah. And so me being completely ignorant to
Mm-hmm.
this, walks up to the guys. I'm talking about a bunch of military. Walks up by myself. Walks up and say, "Sorry, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?" It's like, "You heard me," and then that's when they all kind of pair up. And then that's kind of like how how information sometimes take time to process.
Yeah.
Did he just say he doesn't accept my kind down here? And I'm looking at this fight. I'm like, I'm not winning this fight. There's no
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
winning this fight whatsoever. So I turn around to the girls and like, all right, I'm dipping. This is not my scene. This is what I just heard.
Yeah.
And the girls is like, what? No, you're kidding me. What? I'm like, who did this? I'm like, these guys there. So I'm out. And then so I start walking, and then they turn around to right behind me and flip the bird to them too, which is kind of funny. We went out, and it was a weird, you know, it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt because I haven't been put through that type of thing often. But it was just it was surprising. It was surprising, laughable almost. I was like, did he just fucking tell me he doesn't accept my kind down here? Are you
Mm-hmm.
kidding?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
The the audacity or the bravery of somebody
That's
to
it.
dare
It
to
was
say
just
that.
like,
Yeah.
man, are you kidding?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized when I came down, I didn't realize this, and that's what I was trying to say. It was just an all white bar. But I didn't see that because I didn't see that at first. Already knew I was in America, so I already knew like the ratio of white and black would be different. And it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, so I gotta watch out now. I can't just, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't just come in and
Yeah.
just, act nonchalant. I gotta, I gotta make
You
sure I
gotta
get
be on your
surroundings.
toes, be aware.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So how did that color your how was that manifest itself in the sense of now obviously maybe I'm presuming the girls that you were with were white girls.
Yeah.
You're going if you're there you're going to school or whatever, and if it's a mainly white area then you're going to be around white children and or young people or whatever. So how are you able then to be aware and still live your life as a child, excuse me, or
Well,
as a young person? Did
I
it did it
see.
affect did it affect your day to day?
See, that's the thing. It didn't, and that's the kind of like study and analysis there because it goes back to the I grew up in a majority. Um,
Hmm.
so to me, this is kind of a joke. This is not real in a sense, although it was pretty real, especially in Savannah, it was pretty
Hmm.
real. But it never affected me because I already knew my worth. You know what I mean?
Wow,
So I feel like
powerful.
it was an interesting analysis because I was like, so I get it though because Black Americans do not have that luxury to be like, well, I was part of a majority because they always been felt like a
Hmm.
minority. You know what I mean? So they always have
Yeah.
that minority complex. So no matter what, for them it affects them way more than it would affect me. Like to this
Hmm.
day, you still get, and I'm sure we all do. We still get
Hmm.
like little things here and there, but it never. It's not like it impedes me from doing anything or being anything different. I just now I know, okay, so I sense this area right here is probably not fitting for me, so I'm just not gonna be in there. But even if I happen
Yeah.
to be in
Yeah.
there, it's
Yeah.
not like, I'm stressed or scared shitless. I just make sure I watch my guard and kind of like move in as fast as possible and get out.
Hmm. Hmm.
That type of deal.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, something because I think that's definitely something I think about, especially when obviously I've I've never been to America, so I haven't been. So I just think about how that dynamic, um, being in a being in a place where it's similar to being here in the sense that white people are the majority, and with power comes great responsibility. So they do have the power dynamic is different. So um some people will have that negative view of me just by looking at me. yeah, I was saying that in those deep south states,
Mhm.
it's like they're open carry states. So it can, if somebody is going to take it that far, like fighting might not just be enough.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because when I
yeah,
was young,
yeah,
I've had
yeah.
to fight. Do you know what I mean? But it's, even though the guns do exist here, they're all illegal. So not everybody's got one. I feel like the fact you can go to the supermarket and buy a gun out there, everybody can have one, makes these potential interactions
More,
more sinister.
yeah, more violent, more. It's
Mm-hmm.
see, my conflict in anything is that I never look at only one side. So I try to look at
Mm-hmm.
multiple sides. And
Right.
so when you say this, and then now when when we literally have martial law almost
Mm-hmm.
instilled, so now you're like,
Yeah.
well, wait, am I for or against guns now? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, am I
Yeah.
for the accessibility of it or against it now? Because especially the times you just don't know, and it's not even so much for I want to own because I want to protect myself from the government. It's more I want to protect myself from people because
Yeah.
now you don't know how people will react under these circumstances. Like I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because although I did grow up in and I'll say semi-privileged because privilege in Haiti means middle class here. it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not the same, type thing. But I grew up in a semi-privileged family,
Mm-hmm.
and generations of guns. It's not just because for us it was normal and it was out of protection because of an unstable country.
Right.
Unstable we miss there were some school years we'd miss 2 to 3 months of school. Just we just could
Wow.
not go to school because it was just protests in the streets, burning in front of schools, burning whatever because of an
Wow.
unstable government. So for us, having a gun was true protection. So I grew up around guns. I grew up. Hey, listen, I had kidnapping, um, like anti-kidnapping training.
Wow.
Like at the age of like 16, I was doing this with my dad, my younger brother, my mom, and like all that stuff. Like we were doing this, like how to like hey, you stop, your car gets stopped. How the hell you gonna defend yourself? Type of deal. Because and it's funny because I always tell people this is like, yeah, I may look preppy, but I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
number one
Yeah.
ghetto in the world. Like,
Yeah.
like sure, I was in the suburb, but I heard gunshots every night or every other night.
Mm-hmm.
I know I
Mm-hmm.
have friends and family members that have been, kidnapped and hold for ransom. So it's not something that I don't know, but it's like so that's why probably like when I'm here, I'm not gun obsessive because I'm like, you guys have nothing to worry about compared to what I had to worry
Yeah.
about, like growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That sounds like one of my favorite films. Maybe one of my top favorite films. Man on Fire is
love that
one of
movie.
one
Denzel,
of my favorite films.
love
Yeah,
that.
Denzel. So
Yeah,
it's interesting when you
so
say things like
relatable.
that. It makes
So
me, yeah,
relatable.
I can imagine. That's intense. Just thinking about having to, on that list of what the jobs you have to do as a parent, adding
Hmm.
on to that already extensive list of jobs you've got to do is also to prepare your child for the risk of being kidnapped by somebody who wants to take what you've built for your child.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's a proper interesting concept. Very
Oh,
interesting.
it is.
Interesting. So we spoke about loss, and I think where as far as the deep topics with you, I think this is going to probably be the last one. Let's talk about love.
Oh, we even haven't gotten to existence yet. It's about to get
Yeah, I
deeper.
thought.
But
Huh?
wait,
Do you want to go there
there's
now?
more.
Do you want to go there now? Do you want to
No,
go
no, no. Ask your
existence
question.
now?
Ask your question. We'll start
Yeah,
switching. What's the question?
yeah. The question really is just simply, um, are you in love? Do you believe in love? Or which, and you can pick which one of these questions apply to you. Um, and so, are you in love? And if not, do you believe in love? And
You're not okay. I thought you were froze.
Is love real?
Is love real? Oof.
No. You look like you're frozen though. Is that the one you choose?
No, I'm kind of choosing. I don't know which one I choose because I am in love. I am in love.
Okay.
I do believe in love. Now, that's my human concept. It's
Mm-hmm.
just really like that. It's just that's my human concept. I feel the
Yeah.
chemistry. I feel all the little brain cells working a certain way, releasing a certain type of medication up in there that's making me react physically to another person. Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I feel all that. Um, but I've been through relationships before. I mean, at 33, I think we all kind of you know go through certain things in life. We're like, okay, where I know what love was and I know what love is, type of deal.
Yeah.
But I, if you're also kind of referring to the last episode I dropped, a little segue, a little plug here for my last episode.
Come on,
But
yes, please. Yeah, make sure you do. Make sure you do.
but to me, it was an analysis of what we as society view as love. We have an idea of love as of romanticism, like like heroin, like you rescued a girl, you come as a knight in shining armor, you make her life better because it's not about us.
That
The men
pes-
in these relationships are absolutely perfect. They're
you know what I mean? That pesky
absolutely.
Disney just ruined it for us, man. I'm telling you.
Telling you, man. So we just come in, we swoop the girl away, and then that's it, happily ever after. But that's not reality. That's
Right.
how I've come out of a long-term relationship. I haven't asked you yet, how your life been, but and we'll get there.
Oh
But
yeah, no problem. I'm just as open as you, man. Don't worry, man.
but yeah, it's crazy. I'm trying to see myself differently now. I'm trying to see how I see perceive love differently. And I feel like love at this point for us as humans should be about growth. It should not be what you feel in the moment about somebody. It
I
should
like that.
not, 6 beers in, I'm with this girl
I am
tonight.
listening. I'm just writing that one down because I like
Yeah.
that one there.
Um, because it has to be about growth because you could go out with this girl that you've been seeing for a couple days and you both get drunk. And now, you come back to the crib and you play that smooth jazz and you're about to get down busy. And then you're like, oh shit, I love this girl. But that's romance.
Yeah.
That's chemistry. That's neurons releasing endorphins and you're just like, going in with the train of like all that drug that your brain's been releasing to you right now. But
Mhm.
that's not like, okay, what about the next morning? When you're having a fight about who should have done this or who should have pick up the towel on the floor or who left the laundry, it becomes a whole different discussion. It's like um it's to it goes back to like for me it's like if I'm gonna say I love you to somebody, I need to know if I'm gonna say it when I'm 80.
Mhm.
Like when all the shit that life is gonna throw at us and I'm still gonna be able to see that and I'm be like, yeah, that's the person I want to go through a shit with. That's the person
Yeah.
I be able to be with. So that's my concept of love now. It's having that mindset. It's not just saying oh, for this moment in time you're perfect. It's more for the like what's gonna happen when we go through this problem. What happens when we can't pick the bills or something,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like when the hardcore things happen. So
Yeah.
that's
It's a process, definitely.
it definitely is.
Mm.
You asked me that 6 7 years ago, I'd be like, oh, it's romance.
I hear you. I hear you. I was. If you asked me 6 7 years ago, I probably would have. Let me think. Yeah, maybe six. Yeah, seven. Maybe them sort of times there, I probably would have said it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
That's how I would have looked. That's exactly how I would have. I looked it, and now I'm married. You know, it's crazy.
Why did that sound kind
My
of funny?
friends, yeah, it's crazy. My friends laugh at me. Not at the fact I'm married, but just to see
The transition.
the transition.
Yeah.
Definitely, that's it.
Fall in love with concepts and ideas. We have as a species, that's what we're at. Like we love ideas. We have the ideal human being, the ideal humankind, the ideal
Mhm.
love. But do we really respect it? Do we really go, and actually open up to that? That's like the deep question.
That's yeah. I think that is deep. I feel like, yeah. Are we? Yeah, we have this idea in our mind, but um, are we equipped to
Yeah,
receive it?
to receive it or to
Can
execute.
we? Yeah, can we? Like, we want love, but can we? Do we know how to experience love? Do we know how to receive love?
Yeah.
Um, because that's another debate that me and my friends have, and it's about if you haven't seen um, a healthy and functional, loving relationship work is in being raised, because all our basic thought processes are created from our upbringing. If we haven't seen that, where do you get your point of reference from?
Oh, I know.
Like,
It's gonna be the
just
show
go
Too
on.
Hot to Handle on Netflix.
I haven't seen that. You recommending that? Is that one to
No,
watch?
I'm not recommending that at all. What? That was a joke. That was a joke. I am not recommending this. No.
I was about to write it down and go watch it when we finish.
No, I mean, again, it's your taste. It's whatever your taste is. But it's to show what you were saying about like how our idea are just complex. Say.
hmm Are we ready to receive? Are we equipped, should I say, to receive the things that we want, the things that we make moves to gain? Are we even in a position to even know when we've got them or not?
Um, I think what we have is the stories we tell. I think what we aspire to is through these stories. The Greeks had the Greek gods and the Greek mythology. The Egyptians had the Egyptian gods and the Egyptian mythologies. And we, this current generation of humans, have movies, have TV show, and how we portray these is what we
Mm.
aspire to be. But um do we have the tools? I don't. I I feel this generation probably is one of the generations that challenges these questions more than any other generation, because the other generations I feel like their purpose were determined by a system already, so they accepted it. Our generation doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't accept the system's purpose, and then we're all out here trying to seek meaning and purpose and stuff like that in everything we do. So I feel like if anything, it's like that's the start of the breakdown to find these tools in order to be anywhere near the level that we need to be. Like I can say whatever I want about what I think love is and why I
hmm
aspire to be, but do I practice it in every day? Do I, is it true to me in every level all the time? No. No, because that would entitle that I'm
hmm
perfect, that I'm a perfect human being. I have no, absolutely not. But at least, I
hmm
try to aspire to be like this. And then I think that's all we can, that's all the tools we have is the
Yeah.
aspiration to be better.
I'd like to kind of touch the impact of loss. So, have you experienced loss, i.e., people, i.e., I don't know, um, whether it could be something like, I don't know, failure, or perceived failure, whether failure is real or not is a question for for maybe your style of podcast, But yeah, loss.
Yeah,
What's
definitely.
and I
I've
say
had big
loss.
loss. And by big loss, I'm talking about close family members. Not for
Right.
necessarily state of country, just accident in at a very I say young age, but I feel like your adolescence, like your teen years, are very
Mhm.
important because that's when
Right.
you kind of like you're discerning what you were told when you were younger, which with what life is bringing to you too, because you don't have the
Mhm.
filter anymore that your parents used to give you. And I
Mm.
experienced having my both of my little cousins and my uncle, my godfather too, die in a fire. Uh, uh,
Wow.
yeah, it like the house burned down on the freaking 31st of, 1st of January, 2005, 2005,
Wow.
2004. Yeah. So I guess this is the part of that I didn't put in my story, but like these kind of things like started me like very young questioning everything else. It's like, wait, what?
Mhm.
That can happen? People can just go like this without like
Yeah.
any inherent crime or it's one thing if you get shot because somebody was trying to steal something. There is a reasoning to the death. There's somebody to
Mhm.
blame. There's somewhere
Mhm.
you go and you look at it in a certain way. But
Yeah.
when it's just random like that, you're like, what? What's
Why?
what's
Why?
why?
Yeah.
What? There's no meaning. You could turn to religion. You tell me, oh, it's God's plan. I'm like, okay, get out of here because that's not enough reasoning for me. Like, I'm not saying anything wrong about God or that I don't believe about God. That's not the point. But if that's all you're giving me, bye. Because
I
the
hear
same
you.
the same people could turn around and the Ravens won the Super Bowl. It's like, oh, thanks to Jesus or God. It's like what?
Hold
So
on. Say that
God.
again. Say that again. It kind of cut
No,
out a
I'm
little bit.
saying like it's the same type of people that turn around the Super Bowl. The Ravens won the Super Bowl, and the wide receiver of the Ravens says, "Oh, it all happened thanks to God."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what? So God didn't choose my uncle and my two uh, cousins, but He chose you to win the Super Bowl. I mean, we have an issue.
Yeah.
There's a gap. There's a gap. There's a gap.
Mhm.
There's something
That's
we're
a
not fit.
in-
There's information out there that we're
interesting.
not seeking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
again, it's not taking anything. And the thing I do with my podcast is that even if I'm talking about religion or even if I'm talking about God or existence or whatever, my thing is not. I'm not saying anything is wrong. Like my thing is like, oh, your religion or your whatever you do is not wrong. That's not the thing. It's like, but at what point do we question? Like, at what point do we just accept a status quo? Like, oh, this is how things have to be. This is how it's gonna be. This is God's purpose, and then you just have to do the rest yourself. Like, at what point do we just accept that? And it goes back to the comfort. It goes back to, well, are we working to fulfill a divine plan, or are we really working to get our own comfort zone? You know, type of deal. So it was that was probably part of my teen years that really kind of woke me up to like a bigger meaning, a bigger either meaning or non-meaning of whatever's happening around us. And that was it. That was yeah, that was my story of loss. It that I feel like that's what okay, I remember now. So that's what kind of kickstarted my whole. I was pretty rebellious, but I was rebellious without a purpose. I was just rebellious in
Right.
general. But that kind of really started like my whole line of questioning, like questioning kind of everything. It's like, whoa, what was the purpose? What would be, what would oh, I was telling you how why would God choose to take them, And again, I'm not anti God, I'm not anti religion, I'm not anti anything. Like you do you find your truth,
Mhm.
like you said. Um
Mhm.
because that's what gives you your peace of mind. That's how you give your life meaning. Please, by also do it. By all means, do it. But for me, it was just like, okay, so that doesn't make sense. My religion is not answering that question right now. And then you turn around the TV, you find somebody wins the Super Bowl, and they're saying, "Oh, it's all thanks to God." And I'm like, wait,
Mhm.
that,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that don't make sense to me. How
Mhm.
so they're out there, playing Super Bowl with popcorn and like the little signs like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
together up there, like kind of rooting for
and
different teams.
that's and
That
that's
doesn't make
and
sense.
that's what he's concerned about. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
there's real
it's like
things
that.
happening
Eh,
in the
eh,
world.
yeah, and of course, he's omnipotent. He can be anywhere. But that was not answering my question. That's when I realized, well, um, it's other people answering these questions. It's not. You. I don't know if you have, but I haven't had a direct line with God in communication about these answers to whatever the universe. So it's other people answering it. So why can I? Why can I seek my own answers? Why can I seek my own uh knowledge on this? Why do I have to listen to somebody else tell me their agenda, their view of things? So
That's
that's what
interesting.
lost brought me questioning.
That's yeah. So do you feel like that is the direct link to your question in mind? Do you feel like loss was the direct I don't know, conduit to you finding
Not
or
conduit, more like
searching
catalyst.
questions? Yes, maybe that's the better word for real.
Because conduit would be like I kind of always had it. I had it there. I always had it there. The question mind was always there for me.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of like made it like an overdrive? What was like, all right, I need to find better answers.
Yeah.
Was that catalyst? Like to me, it was just like, okay, all right, there needs to be other answers out there. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just apart from my mother, that was really the only
Yes.
loss that
Okay.
I've experienced. And it was a hard
Was it?
one to deal with just because. Sorry, say again?
I was gonna ask, was it sudden or was it something that?
Yeah, it was. She wasn't well, but it was just like not just, but it was kind of diabetes and that kind of thing, taking high blood pressure medication, that kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
And I remember the day she phoned me the night before or the day before and said, she doesn't feel well. Can I come to stay there? So I've gone there. I've cooked her some food. I've chilled and we've laughed and caught some. You know what I mean? Just had a little vibe and I've
Yeah.
gone to sleep on the sofa and woke up the next morning and she was stiff in the bed. So she died in the night while I was on the sofa in the front room. So it was a very, very difficult. Luckily for me, um, obviously I phoned the ambulance and they kind of talked me through the CPR process and all of these kind of things. But when they came, they said that she passed in the night. It was too late. And
Yeah.
what I was saying is, luckily for me, a friend of mine that had died a few years previously,
Yeah.
who's his mum lived close to my mum, and she just happened to be walking past and knocked the door because she knew my mum from way back, and like saved my state of mind, for want of a better word, because I was lost. I was kind of walking around like a zombie, and I think she came
Yeah.
when she opened the door and I told her what had happened. She came in and slipped straight into mother mode and was just like, "All right, have you brushed your teeth?" And I was just like, "No." "Have you used the toilet?" "No." Like
Right. Yeah.
she kind of
Yeah.
almost tried
Yeah.
to just snap me out of the zombie state I was
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and kind of gave me something to do. So I went and done that. And anyway, she took control of the situation and she got me to phone. She said, "Have you got a friend you can call?" And I phoned my friend, and both of them ended up coming by the end of the day, but one was at work. And like she was the godsend in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yep. She was.
That person kind of yeah, saved my mind state. Then my
Yeah.
friends, when they did come, it was kind of very much showed me, as being raised as an only child, I was very much felt like I was alone in the world. Apart from, if me and my mum had a strained relationship, apart from my mother, I felt like there was no one else that I could really rely on. And in that moment, in that period of time, I realized the support system that I did have and do have up to this day. So it was a blessing and a curse at the same time, you know.
Yep.
So yeah,
Very much.
so yeah, that's as far as loss is concerned, that's really the the most major loss. Um, my friends, my friend's father passed not too long ago, and that was a hard one just
Yeah.
because of the manner in which like
Yeah.
cancer's a horrible thing, man, and it's just hard to see people that you care about in pain, man. So Yeah, but like my own personal loss, I'd say, yeah, my mother's really the only time I've experienced it.
It's it's always the crazy. And by the way, thank you for sharing. I know these topics are not, really easy for people to talk about, but I appreciate it. Um,
No problem.
but it's, yeah, it's always the questions like, what is worse, the actual loss or the struggles towards the loss? Like if you see somebody go, and the night, or the struggle that you had to go through, for to see that person go. It's like, that
It's a
last
hard one.
night you were, huh?
No, sorry, I was just saying it's a hard one to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a,
sorry, what did you say? You say this?
you had to go through, for to see that person go. It's like, that
It's a
last
hard one.
night you were, huh?
No, sorry, I was just saying it's a hard one to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
sorry,
a,
what did you say?
it's,
You say this, you see someone go through the night.
no, you see somebody go through a night, you were there with them the day before. I'm not saying everything was fine, but you were laughing, you slept on the
Yeah.
couch, listening to wake up. It's harsh. It's that cancellation, that
Hmm.
abrupt finish, that finality that
Yes.
you're faced with, and you're like, okay, what? How am I dealing with this right now? And then you have
Yeah.
to go to zombie mode. You have to, because even if you're asking,
Hmm.
your mind is active. You can't express it. It's all
Yes.
in there. You got 1,000 thoughts racing through your head, and it's just, at the
Mm.
same time, none of them are relevant.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a almost it's the first and only time I can recall being in whatever that state was. I can only describe it as being a zombie. I can only describe it as me. That's the first time I felt like a passenger in my body, you know, where you see people talking about I'm looking at themselves doing things from above.
Yeah.
Um, it was more like I'm watching myself doing things from inside me. Like I feel like I'm driving, like I feel like my body is a car and I'm driving this car.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're
you
not
know,
even driving. Somebody
but
else
I'm
is
not.
driving.
Yes, right. It's weird. I'm a passenger in a car. Then maybe that's a
Yeah.
better way to describe it. I'm still looking at the same windscreen that the driver is, but I have no understanding or control of how
Yeah.
I
Or
can
care.
operate this thing. Yeah,
Or
it
care.
was. Yeah, I feel like care was something that. Yeah, care and emotions and everything was stripped from me.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
I was literally just there.
Man.
Like I had no control over anything. It was a difficult time, but what I will say is, the support system I did have um, has got me through that immediate time. I
Yeah.
feel like without that support system, I just didn't have the. It's funny, I was talking about something like this today with somebody. To be fair, the next guest is going to be on my podcast, just kind of
Yeah.
talking about the having the vocabulary to articulate your emotions and
Huh.
how we as men
Don't know it.
struggle. We don't have the ability to articulate how we feel, even
Nope.
to ourselves, let alone to other people. So
Nope.
if you can't process it in your mind and find a way to explain it to yourself, there's no way you can explain it to the outside world.
No.
So I feel like, yeah, go on, yeah. So
So
sounds like
it's
you
it
agree with that.
and tell me if you relate to this. It was almost like, even if you would cry,
Yeah,
you inside of you, you'd be like, why are you crying?
right,
Aren't you
exactly.
fake crying right now? Are you fake crying? Are you trying to cry for people
Yeah,
right now? Why are you crying? It was
right.
almost like that kind of questioning that was going to my mind. It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and
We're not equipped for this.
it's
We don't have the tools for this at all as men
but
in general.
we can. That's the conversation I was having, where I feel like that experience for me, I feel like gave me the vocabulary. Experience gave me the vocabulary because I was so much in my mind. My whole process was trying to gain understanding rather than in the moment I spoke to the people that I was around, but when I was by myself, it was very much me trying to understand why I felt this new feeling. Obviously, I understood, it's my mother and it's important, but I've always characterized myself as somebody who um, was emotionally strong. That's the way I would have described myself. But I think now I would characterize myself at that time as somebody who was emotionally dead. I was,
Yeah.
I was unable to access. Um, I
Any
was
feeling.
unable to access my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not emotions is too broad a term. I was unable to access my vulnerability or my
Yeah.
sadness. Any emotions that I perceived as weak, if they even come anywhere near my vicinity, I'm pushing that to one side,
Yep.
and I'm going back into my He-Man stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So
Pretty much.
yeah, so I think it took for me to experience that loss in order for me to build the vocabulary to be able to articulate my feelings to the outside world after having to go through that process of articulating it to myself. And I feel like that's the conversation I was having earlier with the next guest, where she was saying that we as men we're not given permission to
No.
be emotional, and that kind of opens the door. Emotions open the door to your intuition and to your feelings and to
Mm-hmm.
you being able to access certain things that you have within you. Yeah, it was a really interesting concept to me. Intuition. But yeah, so yeah, loss is something I've experienced. I feel like I've made sense of, and I feel like I am prepared for, in as best as me as an individual can be prepared to lose something that
Yeah.
I care about.
No, very much so. It brings me to my point. I mean, of course, it's a big loss to you because it was somebody. It was your mom. It was your mother, like
Mhm.
you're the person that raised you.
Yeah.
For me, it was people that were very close. That people I went to. We did everything together, and
Hmm.
and forgive me to say this, but it's
No,
almost as
God.
this loss brought you more gains.
Yes, it's very possible. It's very possible. I think how you said it is a comfortable way for me to hear it.
Yeah,
If that
yeah,
makes
because
sense.
I didn't want to. That's exactly what I was going. I was like, all right, don't say some dumb shit so that you don't offend this guy
No,
right
I
now.
feel you. I feel you. I feel you. I
But
hear
yeah,
you exactly.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
it's
yeah.
great. So that's why I used to look at failure as like ah shit, you messed up again. But it's not. There's no such thing as failure really. Us, it's like it's an exchange. Give something away, it might be very important, it might be really important to you, but you never just lose. You do
Hmm.
gain. You're gaining something in return. Um,
Yes.
Equivalent to what you've lost at the moment, probably very beneficial to you and your growth in the future. So
Yeah. I think I think it's that's very true. And then where that takes my mind now is thinking, see what we was talking about before when we was talking about loss, and we was talking about the reasoning and the reason that we try and find for the loss.
yeah.
And you know, it's easy to kind of think, okay, because I'm not a religious person, but when we think, okay, we need more than just the fact that it was part of some great master plan.
That leads
Yeah.
to the next question. Good job.
Okay.
This
Okay.
segue.
Good.
Oh
Good.
yeah,
Good.
go
Good.
ahead.
Good. So yeah, I feel like that's an example of pulling the positive out of a negative. And is there even a positive or negative if you want to get all, philosophical about it? Do you know what I mean? It's is there even